John here. Some breaking news all across Europe right now. It looks to me like we're going to see what I believe is going to be the biggest transfer of wealth throughout all small businesses in Germany, Austria, a lot of different countries throughout Europe. What I think is probably going to happen
a lot of different countries throughout Europe.
What I think is probably going to happen
a lot of different countries throughout Europe. What I think is probably going to happen.
Double speaker. Yeah, so what I think is going to happen essentially. Can you guys hear me? Thumbs up if you guys can hear me. One second. I want to verify everybody can hear me first, and then I'm going to go on to what I have to say. Cool. Yeah, so take a look at this. Right now, we all know about what's happening here, right? And now it's coming here all throughout. And what I think is coming is, boom, look at this. We've heard about this. We've heard about that. That came, but it's really turning up because those that do not are likely going to face this, which then could be converted into that. That is unbelievable. Very, very frightening, right? Frightening. And now what they're taught here is this same strategy, same thing, right? This is all throughout. So what I think we could be stepping into is a situation where we're going to start to continue seeing more of what we're seeing now. But that we're going to see a lot of small businesses, they're not going to make it because they're going to try to do what they legally have to. And a lot of people are going to support the businesses, and they've already been through a lot. These small business owners have been through a lot over the last 18 months. I've been reading article after article about companies that have been, in existence for 100 years that are in debt right now, just trying to make payments. And if they lose the winter shopping months, the tourism months, it's not even gloom, it's just reality. They're not going to be able to make it, right? If they lose that revenue, that income. So recap. Right now, there are some big problems all throughout Europe. You can look at it. You can talk on any website, see it. Massive things all throughout all these locations. I think is going to happen is that we're going to start to see a huge exodus of these cities as it becomes less and less safe for people to live. Small businesses and a lot of the tourist attractions slowly are fading out because of the situation. I mean, what we have right now, we have this. This is there, right? And if you can't afford, like, you look at how this isn't fearmonger. Like, you read it, it's pretty scary, right? They're not playing around. They're not playing around. Well, now Germany's talking about doing the same thing. So what they're saying is German politicians are debating to make this, right, for citizens in light of this. So some members of Chancellor Angela Merkel, conservative, on Sunday, the state government should introduce this, right? So what will happen there? So 32% of the population, right now I think the population is about 80 million. 85 million. 83 million, right? So 62% of 83 million. Okay, so yeah, so I mean, you're talking, or better, yeah, it's probably easier to do it this way. 38%. You're talking 31 million people would be in violation. 31. Someone says the audio is horrible. How many of you guys can hear me? Audio. The left is blocking his signal. Hold on one second here. Can you guys hear me? Tell me if the audio is better. If you guys can hear the audio, give me a thumbs up. Tell me if you guys can hear the audio. Thumbs up or thumbs down. Sounds okay now. Okay. All right. Stick around with me because this is a lot of really good info that I think we need to follow, because I think that what's happening there, if you're going to ignore I'm not ignoring the chat. I'm obviously talking to you guys. Cool. So yeah, what's happening there, I believe, is going to be coming here. And I think that we need to pay quick attention to and close attention to, because it's pretty shocking how fast this is all progressing. Small businesses in very, very, very big trouble, like huge trouble. This isn't fear monger. Like, you look at the info, you see it. Like, you understand where this is going to be going, right? And so it's happening there. In Indonesia, it's happening also. But I mean, when this is thrown out as something that is, a viable option, that is frightening, absolutely frightening. And so now in Germany, they're talking about the same thing, right? They said 68% have said, okay, fine. So 32% have not, right? So 32. So you're talking 26.5 million people that would be in violation. 26.5 million people. So what would this do to small business? We'll start there. What will this do to small business if you're talking 1 out of 3 people won't support the business, right? Those businesses are done. It's over for those businesses. And if they do, somehow survive, it's going to be by the skin of their teeth. But if they lose the holiday spending money, and they lose the tourists, and they lose all of the money that flows into those cities, the cities are going to be crawling with crime. I think that we can start seeing a lot of violence creep up in all these cities that continue down this road. So it's pretty frightening to me how fast we're seeing this progression, right? And so what they're saying is 68%. So we've reached a point where we must clearly say that we need de facto, right, head of the youth wing. German 7-day, they're saying, in some regions, it's surpassed 1,000, with some. Overall, there's been 5.35 million. So an influential member of Greens and finance minister in the southwestern state. So they're saying that basically this is what they have to do. They're going to give all these bullet points as to how it's so important and it's for everyone's best interest. Maybe it is. I'm not going to comment on that. All I talk about here is money, personal finance, and business. And here it looks like the entire business landscape of Europe is going to be in some very, very, very big trouble. And it looks like America could be following in that same footprint. And so someone said, do I typically respond via text? If anybody texts you or comments and says, hey, John, text me for this WhatsApp number, that's not me. So never, ever respond to those people, ever. So please, not on just my page, any page. If anyone texts you a WhatsApp, just ignore it. It's a sham. So right now it says Germany's small business owners fight to survive, right, amid fears. This business here, for example, has been open since 1913, so over 100 years. And right now, she said, before the second, I took out a credit as a buffer. I've managed because of that. But the aid I'm getting is going straight into paying off that debt. She has taken advantage of the government's worker furlough program and low interest loans. I put a little money aside, but I'm worried about this being extended continuously. I have no income. If I can reopen in the summer, I should be okay, although we won't be back to full business because the tourists won't be here, just like I said. She said, we're a century-old bar and a piece of the city, but I have to say, honestly, that if someone offered to buy the business outright, I'd sell. I'm so tired. So you look at this, right? So Germany, a lot of people don't know this about Germany, but Germany, they have very, very high taxes. I hear great things. I hear Germany's a beautiful place. People are very, very proud. They love the country, and that's great. But they have very high taxes. And with this change, with this modification, what we could essentially see is we could see people saying, hey, this isn't in line with my lifestyle. Maybe I want a simpler life. Maybe I want to go out to the country somewhere. Maybe I want to, relocate to a different country or go do this or do that. people may just pick up, and a lot of people may pick up and leave, because you got 26.5 million people that are going to have to make a decision. And so far, they've already made a decision. So the odds that even half of those people say, okay, it's unlikely. It's unlikely, maybe 10, 20, 30% maybe, but you're not going to get all 100%. There's no way. So the question then happens is, where does this go? Where does this lead? Where will these people go if this continues? And it seems like a real frightening type of scenario that we're all going to live through, either directly or indirectly. And when we watch this, it's just frightening. So, like, for example, you pay like 40% tax for in Germany, right? 45%. So starting 1% rising incrementally, 42 to 45%. So you have these very high taxes, right? And then you're gonna have small business that's gonna be suffering. And yeah, I mean, it's a frightening type of situation. So yes, don't ever answer those. It's not me. It's, you can't delete those bots fast enough. They just keep making new profiles. But yeah, it's pretty frightening. In Indonesia, for example, they're saying that, hey, if you don't, then you're not going to get any government assistance. They're basically just cutting you off entirely. So it'll be, I think what people need to realize right now in general is that independence, financial independence, having a good credit score, having some money in the bank, having options, this is what's going to be very important for a lot of people going forward, having that freedom and that flexibility to pivot and move with the times. But what I do really believe we could see is a big exodus from cities all throughout Europe and even America possibly, where people say, hey, this is too much. I moved to the city initially for employment opportunities, for job opportunities, to be with my friends, a social life. And now a lot of this has been pulled out from the economy. And there's no longer bars and pubs and cool venues that I can go out and hang out with my friends. So a lot of these are closed down. Crime is through the roof. Why do I need to be here? So we could start to see a lot more people move into the country. But the problem that I see, and how I see this whole thing kind of panning out, is in Germany, when they're talking that this is the number that would need to comply with this new change here. If they're saying that the total number has already said, okay, so 32% have not, these people, I think, most people don't have, 2 years worth of money in the bank, they're month to month, right? So if these people are going to lose their jobs and they're going to lose their income, what would likely happen? Do you think that they would stop feeding themselves first or stop feeding the landlord first? My guess is that the last person to get paid would probably be the landlord. And most people would wonder what they can do and how they should move with the world, with the times. And they're most likely going to need every penny that they can get. So what I think is likely to happen throughout a lot of countries, as if this does continue, is that landlords, it's going to be survival of the fittest for the landlords too. Because these landlords, if incomes are dropping and employment opportunities are dropping and the desirability to be in the city, such as the two that I've just mentioned, those two countries, then essentially what's going to happen is that wages are going to fall, and so will those rents eventually. And the landlords are going to get wiped out, a lot of them. So they talk about affordable housing being very necessary and required in Germany. In fact, they're going so far as to say that they want to confiscate buildings from landlords that have over a couple thousand units. This isn't a joke. This is serious. Look at this. So Berliners, this is about 2 months ago, they were talking about seizing housing from big corporate landlords. They just wanted to come in. So that what I think would likely happen is if we have a situation where a lot of businesses are out of business, right? A lot of employment opportunities are fading away and people are leaving, then what's going to happen is rents are going to fall. A lot of people are going to be taken out. But what they're saying is that the referendum is non-binding, but if the government chooses to act, as it's now pressed to do, it could mean that the city would purchase over 240,000 apartments for billions of euros and turning them into socialized housing run by the city and public entity. So do you think about that, about how big that is? This whole thing works out so well for that because the values of these assets are going to plummet. They're going to be able to buy them for pennies on the dollar, and then they're essentially just going to be, public housing, right? These units are currently owned by a handful of real estate giants in Germany and across Europe. The leader among this group is Deutsche Wohnen SE, which currently owns 100,000 units in the city, and that they're betting on this expropriation. But it's so shocking to see how fast things are changing. Berliner's left-wing coalition government tried curb skyrocketing rents with rent caps in early 2020, but it was quickly overturned in the courts, now spurred in part by the loss of protections for renters who make up 84% of the population in Berlin. Voters see expropriation as the best way to get a handle on runaway rents. So this whole thing actually works out so well for them because they're going to be able to start changing some of the rules, the laws for property ownership. Everything is kind of up in the air. But what I do think is going to happen is that there's going to be a lot more sympathy for the tenants long term in Berlin and Germany and a lot of other countries in Europe than for the landlords. Because the landlord's going to be blamed for the hardship. They're going to push this off as like towards inequality and inequity, and it's all going to be pushed on the greedy capitalist landlords. Is how they'll probably picture it. That's money some critics say would be better spent on social services or to build more badly needed housing. The work of creating affordable housing falls to the public sector in Berlin. In 2018, the city government committed to 200,000 building units of housing by 2030, half of them affordable. But in practice, progress is much slower. Fewer than 1,000 of affordable housing were constructed between 2014 and 2018. Still, advocates for expropriation say it could be set up on an avenue for further housing construction. Deutsche Wohnen proposes financing the purchase of building through bonds that would be repaid using rental income. So basically, people are just going to work for the state. That's what they're saying. They want to take the 240,000 units from the builders. If you're just popping in here, this is what they're saying. They're going to take the 240,000 units and people are going to pay rent, and that rent is going to be just to the state. Fascinating how this is deemed as like progress. It remains to be seen whether politicians will need voters' demand a non-binding referendum supported by more than 1 million Berliners. But they had something in here that basically said, it might not be this article because I've read many of these articles, where it says that they determine the value. So the buyer determines the value. Imagine if you wanted to go buy a beautiful house in Miami Beach, but the seller didn't determine the price. You determined the fair market value of that property. Do you think you would pay what the seller wanted to pay, or do you think you would pay what made more sense for you to pay? You'd probably pay a lower price, right? That's exactly what's happening throughout Germany. And that's why I think that what we're likely going to see, not just in Germany, not just in some of the other countries, but what we're likely going to see is more of a left-leaning view towards property ownership, towards almost all policy. Because as people lose their freedoms to earn a living through small business and small enterprise, they have to lean on someone or something or some entity that's going to be able to fulfill the obligations for them to have a cell phone, for them to have internet connection and food and clothing and shelter and everything else. Someone's going to have to fulfill that need because it's no longer going to be themselves in the free market. And what we're going to see in Germany, what we're going to see in a lot of other places is going to likely be just that, a move towards this. But we could also see a lot more crime in these big cities, a lot more crime. People, if you look at what we've seen in New York and a lot of other places right now, I get emails. Someone just emailed me this. Hold on one second. I'm going to share this with you guys because it was pretty unbelievable. So hold on. 1 second here. Someone just emailed me this. Give me a second. There we go. Okay. So someone just emailed me this right here. This is from the Daily Mail. And they said that a gang of 80 crowbar-wielded looters in ski masks ransacked California Nordstrom to fill 25 cars with designer goods in raid lasting 1 minute. So as we start to see more of these restrictions and people need to make money because they're losing their employment opportunities and things are fading for them, we're going to start to see more and more crime just skyrocketing. It's shocking. We've all seen the videos, but yeah, crazy times. And I think that I think Germany and I think that these other beautiful countries in Europe are going to be stepping into a situation very soon where people are going to do things that they normally would never do. You know, in Germany, it's not like you know, I've never been to Germany. I've read about it. I've been throughout. You know, I've been to Amsterdam, London, Barcelona, Venice, Rome. I've traveled around, but I've never been to Germany. But what I hear is that, you know, very upright, good citizens, hardworking citizens, smart citizens. And, you know, you really have to do a lot for you to actually get in trouble legally over there. People, it's just not, you know, in their nature. And so, but when you turn on National Geographic, you know, see what people do for food. That's what animals do for food. I think people are pretty close to, you know, they have that same animal nature. For example, if you were a father or a mother and you had a 2-year-old that you needed to feed because you lost your job, you had no way to do it, you would bend heaven and hell to make that meal happen for your child. And we're going to have 26.5 million people in Germany have that same thought coming very soon, especially as they push forward for these massive modifications. So hold on one second. These massive modifications here, which will be consisting of just that. So what they're intending to do here is this number where people are literally going to face this if they say no. So they're going to face these fines. The fines aren't small, by the way. Someone was saying they're about 2 months of wages if you're on median income. So that's how much it is. 2 months of wages. If you don't have it, then, you know, then there you go. So pretty wild to me. You know, but I'm just looking at things from like a personal finance. That's what I talk about on those channels: personal finance, real estate, and business. But we're seeing the entire landscape of business change. That's what we're seeing right now. So we have to understand that we're seeing the entire landscape of business, of the economy, of where people are able to go, and what is deemed good and what's deemed bad. And we're seeing division in this world like we've never seen before. It's all happening. It's happening so fast. And what's interesting is it's happening so fast, but yet so slow, because it's like gradual. Like every couple weeks is just a little bit, you know, a little more in this direction or that direction. And here we are. We're in this big change. But I think all this goes more and more in the direction to where we have these business opportunities happen, which is where they start really moving in. Like in Berlin, like what they're saying right now is how they want to take over 240,000 units. You think what's going to happen? There could be a lot of people living on the streets if their business is closed down and they have no one to work or they can't find work. There could be business on the street, and then at that point in time, then the state would have to take the property to make it affordable, and they'd be able to set their own price on buying this. This isn't like fear. Like seriously, look it up. I promise you look it up and you do your own research on this. You see what Germany is doing. They want to buy 240,000 units from what they say is rich investors, and they set the price of these units. What's going to happen when they set these changes here to basically cripple small business and small enterprise? If they had trouble getting the votes to make it happen before, you take 26 million people out of work, and I have a feeling that you're going to get those votes. And then yeah, so we could see a whole new version of capitalism, of enterprise. But so it's here, right? It's here. We're seeing big problems happening right here. What I think is going to happen is it's going to be like this all throughout these areas. Boom, and probably the next month or two. So like it's already here. It's already going to be coming here, but it's going to be like this. Boom, and then boom, 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 boom. It's going to just continue going like this, and then yeah, I mean Newsom already has his plan set, so he's going to be, he's going to keep his options on the table until March of 2022. So buckle up, guys. Yeah, it's pretty interesting. I think this is a great time for people to kind of sell off things that maybe they don't really need. That's a liability. Accumulate capital, have this capital, invest it well. I personally love precious metals. I love crypto as well. If you understand what you're investing in, I love a lot of different vehicles that enable you options to pivot. The more options that you have, the more you're able to pivot, the better position you're able to position yourself in. And I think the better off everyone's going to be. But it seems as though, 80 or 90% of the general population says, oh, this is nothing. This is all fine. But I mean, if someone were to tell you that this was happening 2 years ago, you would have called them nuts. And now it's front page, all these magazines. So, yeah. Someone said farmland. Yeah, I love farmland. Michael Burry actually said that farmland is the best investment if it has a natural water source on it with water rights. And I fully agree with that. I think that he made that statement 11, 12 years ago. And I think that statement has aged like fine wine. Because if you own a large plot of land with a natural water source that's far from a city, for me, I would rather be there than being dead smack in New York City in 2 or 3 months. In the cold winter months, as things are probably going to continue getting harder and harder for the people in New York City. I'd rather be on the farm with internet connection, a bunch of good books, and a fire going, and some healthy food in my first, second, and third fridge. I'd rather do that than be out in the middle. But yeah, it's funny because I told my friend all this stuff like, I don't know, 15 months ago, like, hey, this is probably what's going to happen. He's like, oh, you're crazy. And then he texts me and he's like, all right, like, I'll listen. And it's like, oh, well, dude, yeah, well, welcome aboard, man. Because this is, he sees what's happening now. A lot of people are slowly starting to kind of see how this is going to impact them financially, their business, their college degree, everything that they thought they knew about this world is all being questioned. So I think we should really pay close attention to the economy in Germany, the economy throughout the world, because to me, what it seems like is like they are just a few months ahead of us. So we pay attention to what's happening over there, then we might have an idea of what could very likely will happen here. So don't fall into the trap right now, which a lot of people are, in my opinion, are falling into, which is that the markets only go up. The world's only going to continue appreciating. Everything is a great investment. Invest in value. Invest in things that really, really have utility. And throughout the good times and the bad times, that utility will always have value. Whereas like a Dogecoin or something like that really won't. But yeah, I just wanted to hop on here and kind of talk to you guys a little bit about it. I'm going to scroll through and read some of these comments. Let's see here. Let's see. Farmland will be, let's see. Change the law. A lot of comments. Yeah, so turkey was $80 in the South here. That is so crazy because 2 years ago, turkey was, what was it, $25? Saw something on TikTok where they were comparing last year's turkey price to this year. It was like $25 to $55 or something. He's saying 80. I was called crazy 3 years ago. Stockholm can, but yeah, I mean, I think honestly some great investments right now are just some really good books. There's some really amazing books, and a lot of the stuff we listen to on television and through the mainstream is not there to serve you. It's there to serve them. So if you can get some really, really good books, I actually just bought a couple. I can share them with you. About Peter Lynch, Richest Man in Babylon, Against the Gods, and of course. But yeah, so pick up some real good books and learn a lot. I'll probably see you guys. Maybe I'll do another live stream or something later today. If I find something good enough that's worth my time and your time, then I'll do a live stream. So if you want to be a part of that, hit the notification bell and you'll be notified of my next stream. Subscribe here if you want to or not. And yeah, I'll catch you guys in a bit. See ya.